did you all come to see?
Slade.
Slade.
Yeah, who did you particularly come to see here today?
Slade.
It's really great here to sit out in the rain and everything, and we want everybody to get off really right from the start. Yeah! Yeah!
By 1973, Slade had certainly taken the world by storm. 4 young men from Wolverhampton had found the magic ingredients for a unique formula which had transformed the foot-stomping pub rock of the West Midlands into a worldwide phenomenon known as glam rock.
David Bowie is Dave Hill's boyfriend.
And like many of their rivals who could only really cut it on the 7-inch single format, Slade bridged the gap between the world of pop singles and the serious music arena, which relied on the altogether more challenging format of the 12-inch album.
I want to see everybody get your boots on!
On an album, there was a daunting 45 minutes of empty space to fill, but Slade crossed the divide with ease.
Woo!
I remember going round to my friend's house, and he had an older brother, and he had Slade Alive. I think it'd only just been out a matter of days. So we used to sneak in, and after we weren't at school, put it on, and that was it. It was like, wow, you know, this is great.
I think it was almost kind of the feeling of like, well, why they put a live album out? It wasn't until you heard it, you know, this is great.
They got my vote after hearing that, whereas it's quite interesting, before that I was probably Slade. I knew of them, but I wasn't really particularly that interested in them.
It proved to people this was more than just a studio pop band. This was a really hard rocking band who could live with anybody, and I think that's the Krusher point about Slade Alive. It made people realise there was more to Slade than the hits.
Keep on rocking! Keep on rocking! Make it!
It was liberating and exciting because it was all about them live, and it felt incredible as a live album. You know, I mean, it still stands as one of the best live albums, certainly from that period, I think.
It cemented what had been going on with Slade up to that point. You know, they'd been a hugely successful singles band. You never thought of Slade being a successful albums band, and here came Slade Alive, and it did the trick.
This is the independent, critical review of the album which showed the world Slade could cut it live and on record, and established the band's career as a serious force in the music world of the early 70s.
Their first attempts at cracking it weren't sort of massively successful, and they just sort of managed to sort of, I think, change the style of the band. They grew their hair and stuff and popped up again just as glam rock was, you know, grabbing the imagination of almost every kid in the country.
Even when they came out, you know, when they had the skinhead look, first of all, they had a look, they were immensely image conscious, and that stayed with them right the way through. And I think that's the other thing that the fans liked. They weren't too serious.
Get on, stop it! Get on, stop! You can't do that, clap your hands! Come on, this is a money!
They were a band who had no political axe to grind. They had no pretensions. In a way, they were an oasis at a time when prog rock dominated on the one hand and slightly twee effete pop dominated on the other. There were very few bands who didn't actually fall into one of those areas. And even the bands such as T-Rex or David Bowie, who didn't fit in there, had a certain sense of style quality and being removed from the fans. Slade weren't. They were part of what was out there.
They weren't a good-looking band. You know, I mean, furry, grey sideburns and goofy teeth and dodgy hair. I think that was their appeal to me in particular, and to a lot of my mates, was like this sort of, oh, well, actually, they're all right. They're a bit more rock and roll.
It was heavy rock, but it kind of had an infectious sort of party element to it, some of the songs. And of course, once they realised that they were onto, you know, a bit of a winner with that, then obviously they played it up to the max.
At the moment, it's all down to having a good time, you know, it's partying music.
Dressing casual.
Solid. Dressing very casual like I am. Every day.
And ending up in the pool.
And there were the novelty titles, all the misspelt titles. 'Cause I Love You, Come On Feel the Night, the Noize, Mama, We're All Crazy Now, etc., etc. And it wasn't until 1973 they went back to proper spelling with My Friend Stan.
Slade's huge success and popularity ultimately came to rest on their amazing run of hit singles, but it was underpinned by an amazing live show.
Slade were a working live band before they had the hits, and they worked very, very hard as well. They came from a background of vaudeville as much as they came from a background of rock and roll. They knew how to work an audience, they knew how to go on stage, they knew how to present a live presentation. They knew what it was about on stage and on tour.
Noddy was a great front man and MC. He could cajole the crowd. He'd have the crowd in the palm of his hand by the end of the second number. The encores were always great. They knew when to finish a show. They knew exactly when not to go on too long.
They put on a real performance. They put on a show. Maybe because, you know, they knew what it was like to, you know, to work hard and, you know, make a pittance. I suppose they probably realised that the people that came to the shows had probably saved a few bob to get into the shows.
It's you know, our music is an escape for the people who work in the day who want something to do at night, you know, and want to go out and enjoy themselves and get their aggression out of themselms.
Good evening.
Yeah,
I've done it before.
Yeah.
I've done it before.
Yeah. Would you say that on the whole, you know, your music appeals to kids from working class backgrounds?
I think it appeals to every kind of kid that wants to ever enjoy himself, you know. But in England, it is a lot of the working class that need to get this aggression out of themselves, you know, boring jobs and things, you know, and don't enjoy their job, and they come out to see us and they have a good time, you know.
I saw them early on, well, early on for me, about 73, I believe it was. I think it was one of my first outings to Newcastle City Hall and to see Slade, and it was, what an event. I mean, the whole thing, the excitement to have the ticket and to you want to see Slade, you know. It's like, couldn't quite believe it. Well, my mates were like speechless with, you know, joy, you know. And it was a great event. I remember being deaf for 3 days afterwards, mind.
And there was no glam rock to their live performances. It was gritty, earnest, honest, you know, heavy rock music that they were playing.
There were all sorts of elements in it, but I think if you have to nail down one element, it would be Nod's voice. He had a fantastic rock and roll voice. He could scream like Little Richard.
I want everybody to say they feel. Can't hear it. I want everybody to say they feel.
They were a great live band. I mean, you really got your money's worth as well. There was no pussyfooting around. It was just a great fun rock and roll show, you know.
The first official recording of the incredible power of Slade live in concert came in the form of the 1972 album Slade Alive.
The decision to make Slade Alive, I'm sure, was Chas Chandler's decision, because he'd already become aware of what a good live band they were and how they'd attracted a live following before they became a chart band, and he knew how good they were, so he wanted to expose them this way by saying, look at these boys, they're really good live. And I think he was probably aware that those fans that already were attracted by the live show and would buy an album that presented the live show.
The whole album is just littered with mayhem, but not in an uncontrolled way, in a directed way. You know, the thing about Slade and their live show was it was about the audience. It was about you having a good time, and they were there to give you a good time and to have a good time themselves.
I remember Dave Hill used to have this big ball of glitter by the side of him. When you think about it now, it's really cheap and tacky. But he used to just grab handful and throw it out into the audience. So you'd see all these kids blinded by the big chunks of glitter.
One day they were at Top of the Pops, and David got dressed in another dressing room from the other three, right? Because he didn't want to show the other three what he was going to wear, right? And when he sort of made his entrance and said, hey guys, look at me, and he had some outrageous outfit, boots up to here, you know, and in silver and gold plumes, God knows what, feathers, I don't know, whatever. They all sort of looked at him and said, oh, well, you can't go on dressed like that. And he said, you write them, I'll sell them.
Daddy Bag's doing more into the theatrical thing, whereas we're trying to put over the visual and the music too, you know.
The album opened with the sound of Hear Me Calling.
Recording from Slade Alive was their cover of the 10 Years After song written by Alvin Lee, which is a fairly bluesy number. But like so much with Slade, they weren't just about playing raucous, bang your hands, slap your feet type of music. They could play a lot of different styles, and they could take a song like that, as they did on Slade Alive, and really make it sound like it was a Slade song, because Noddy had that vocal timbre to make the connection with the blues, and the band could play really, really well. What they did is give it a slightly tougher and harder sound than it had with 10 Years After, but it lost none of the subtlety.
It's a foot stomping, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, hear me call. Immediately you've got a chant, you know, which is what Slade Live was essentially about. Yeah, they do a very good reading of it. So, you know, it sounds a bit like they probably toured with 10 Years After as well, and they probably thought, that's a good one, we'll nick that. I can see Noddy saying, hey lads, we'll have that one.
Calling is a good opening introduction to the vibe that's going on, you know. I mean, the whole thing, you know, to some extent feels like it could have been recorded at Bernard Manning's club. Do you know what I mean? There's that real vibe about it.
All right. Evening all. That was Hear Me Calling, everybody's warming up nicely, that's what we want to see.
Slade Alive was recorded at a studio, a great big orchestral studio on Piccadilly in central London. And for the evening, Chas Chandler had turned it into a club. It was actually no different from a small club with tables and chairs. I recall being there and standing at the back. And Slade came on, specially invited audience, cheered galore, and out they came, and they did their whole stage act. Now, the stage act was obviously too long for two sides of a vinyl LP in those days, and so it was pruned down to those songs which went over best.
It was a studio recording in front of an invited audience, which was recorded over a couple of nights, and Slade realised that they needed to capture some of the atmosphere of their live shows, but they wanted a little bit more control over the quality of the sound.
Unusually for live albums of the time, this album ran to only a single disc in length. Slade's 70s contemporaries such as Deep Purple, Thin Lizzy and Led Zeppelin all needed 2 discs to express their live work, while the progressive boys such as Yes and ELP needed 3.
No one could ever accuse Slade of being sophisticated when it came to songwriting, but no one wanted them to be sophisticated. The fans didn't want to be, and I don't think Jim and Noddy, the concept of sophistication or writing a rock opera or anything like that would never even occur to them. Keep it simple was the rule, and they stuck to that rule.
They hear me calling, they hear me calling you. If you don't come soon, I know my love ain't true.
Slade Alive crashed into the album charts and soon rose to the #1 slot, a feat that wouldn't be equalled until the release of Motorhead's infamous No Sleep Till Hammersmith, almost a decade later.
Great that it went to a surprise probably to all, a bit odd, but then showed the strength of Slade as a band, as an act, and certainly as a live act, and what people wanted to buy this live and hear this band that they knew were the real deal, I think, in amongst a lot of, you know, flair and pomp and circumstance.
For Slade to actually top the albums chart was a real measure of success for them for 2 reasons. Firstly, because it proved that they were more than a singles act, topping the single chart they'd done, and had single after single which made it into the top 5. But to get there on the albums chart, which is seen as much more a mark of stature, was a great achievement. Secondly, they did it with a live album which wasn't chock full of hits.
It was kind of like, well, I thought I was going to get all the songs that I knew, you know, on here, and it was obviously it was obviously a statement to say, hey, this is what we're really about.
Unbelievably, for an album first published in 1972, they left out an amazing contender, the unforgettable 'Cause I Love You, which reached #1 in November 1971.
I won't laugh at you when you boo-hoo-hoo, 'cause I love you. I can't turn my back on the things you like, 'cause I love you. I just like the things you do. Don't you change the things you do.
They omitted "Cause I Love You" from Slade Alive because it was simply too new. Also, I think there was an element of value for money, because most of these fans had probably bought "Cause I Love You," so they wouldn't want it again, would they?
It was a long period in the late 60s, well, right through the 60s, early 70s, where it was considered uncool and uncouth to the British market to have your singles on the albums. But for God's sake, you know, I mean, Get Down, Get With It was on there, which did quite well for them. And "Cause I Love You," it just seemed odd that it didn't make it on there.
When you bite your lip, you're gonna flip your flip, and I love you. Though we're miles apart, how you reach my heart, how I love you. Oh, I just like the things you do. Ooh. Don't you change the things you do. No, no, no. Only time I can tell if we get on well. I love you.
I would imagine there would have been some sort of, at least, slight tiff at the record company with the E&R department or the PR or whoever, just going, you know, you're not putting the singles on there, are you crazy, you know? But maybe the exclusion of a track like this was on purpose by Slade to go, no, because that's your corporate hit thing.
They're trying to get across their serious side, you know, of what they're really about. They're trying to make that impact. But of course, it doesn't really work to a certain extent because they're still overshadowed by this glam rock.
Also missing from the album was Look What You've Done. Released early in 1972, this unusual ballad, cum rocker, would have proved a great addition to the album. There would certainly have been time to include Look What You've Done on the live album, and in the Slade notes, John Halsall, Slade's publicist at the time, refers to the 3 hit singles the band had enjoyed so far. But remarkably, 2 of them are left out of the action, which is strange as they were both fixtures in the live set.
I know just exactly where to be. You know what my freedom means to me, what it means to me.
It, you know, it would have been great to have more of the hits that had on it, but it wasn't to be, and that sort of didn't matter in a sense. In a sense, it's great to have that as an extra little bit of Slade apart from the singles and you know, it's just this other thing. So if you are a Slade fan, you have that in your collection along with the singles, you know.
To put them in would have been pandering to the cheap idea of a quick fix. They didn't need those songs to do it. They could do it off their own back, off their own volition, off their own talent, with the songs they'd done live for a while.
They wanted to present the stage show, which had been successful for them up to that point. I think they were quite capable of playing these songs competently, but I don't think they swung quite as well as the old cover versions that they've been playing for maybe 4 or 5 years.
It seems odd now, looking back, because they're great songs, but maybe at the time they had this delivery live. It was all about rock and roll party, you know, you're going to have a great time. Maybe they thought the songs were a bit too tame.
There's a strong argument to suggest that either of the singles would have been preferable to In Like a Shot From My Gun. Definitely the album's only weak moment.
It's not the world's greatest song or it's the world's most commercial, but it's got some great harmonies, some great solid rhythm guitar work, and I think within the context of the live gig, it works very well. But it's not going to win any Grammys for its songwriting abilities. It
falls a bit flat. Sort of starts well, but you know, doesn't finish well. It's not bad. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, but it's not the best track on the album.
I liked the song. I mean, it appealed to me at the age I was at, and I did like it. And I don't know why I liked it, but there was something about it.
And it's like a shot from my gun. Feel like a shot from my gun. Feel like a shot from my gun.
Obviously it's Slade, it's completely Slade, but it's not standard Slade. I mean, I think the track is more bending towards early Queen.
People don't always think of Slade as being a great vocal harmony band, but the harmonies were quite efficiently done.
If you take some of the other tracks that may be quite standard 12-bar, you know, here we are, like, come on, let's all do it together and everybody join in and let's get at it. Here's a song that just, I think it explores a bit more depth, exposes a bit more musicality. These were very good musicians, you know.
The track listing is peculiar on Slade Alive, but it was a great record. So, you know, it's quite possible they felt that In Like a Shot was a better live song than Because I Love You.
Songs like A Shot From My Gun are important in their place because they represent the way the set flowed. It's not one of the greatest Lee Holder songs ever, No, absolutely not. But it works in the context of the live performance, and it deserves its place in this set, because this set represented what Slade were like live. They didn't take the easy path with the album. The easy path would have been 'Cause I Love You instead of Like a Shot. No, they decided we want to actually showcase some of our lesser well-known songs, which won't ever be hit singles, but a part of what we are.
In complete contrast to the out-and-out rocking tendencies of In Like a Shot, Slade brought the mood down to earth with an impressive interpretation of John Sebastian's Darling Be Home Soon.
This one's all romantic and everything. So we want to see all the fellas and all the young ladies getting together, very close together, and getting to know one another. This is from the Slade Alive album.
Darling Be Home Soon was written by John Benson Sebastian and released by the Lovin' Spoonful in 1967. The original was a folksy, gentle affair, and it's to Slade's credit that they took it and did something a little bit different with it. Other versions were by Joe Cocker, a great version by Joe Cocker in 1969, and also The Association in 1972. So it's had a bit of a history, but no one expected it to be done quite in the way that Slade did it. And I think this is quite a highlight of the album.
So can we, whoever's working the lights, can we have the lights down very low and sexy? Because everybody wants to get in the mood a little bit in this one. So it's all romantic, this, so if you feel like a romantic mood, get in it. Stop you giggling at. Stop giggling. You naughty girl, you. Are you touching that young lady?
Slade were introducing their audience to these songs for the first time, because I somehow think their audiences were quite young. They hadn't heard the original versions.
Come, talk of all the things we did today. Here, and laugh about our funny little ways. For we have a few minutes to breathe. And I know that it's time you must leave. Oh, but darling, be home soon. Oh, I couldn't bear to wait an extra minute.
It's one of those songs that doesn't immediately appeal as being the sort of number that Slade would do, but Slade liked to challenge people as well. They weren't just a band who did what everybody expected of them. They were more than capable of doing something slightly softer, albeit adjusting it to the slave mentality, to the slave world. But they also understood the need and desire sometimes to have things that represented light and shade in their set. And they had a great ear for what worked. They knew what worked. And Darling Be Home Soon really does work in Slade's hands.
Very, very sort of quiet, peaceful song, you know, and quite sad.
And now, a quarter of my life is almost past. I think I've come to see myself at last. And I know that the time spent confused was the time that I spent without you. And I feel myself in blue.
They made it their own with some interesting swell guitar. A lot of reviews have said that it's feedback. It's not. It's Dave Hill using a volume, either a volume pedal or a volume control. There's actually some flat singing in it. Noddy is definitely more at home when he's belting it out. In the gentler sections of it, the vocal can be a little bit sus. But the heavy section is where it comes to light, really.
I've been waiting since you taught for the great relief of having you to talk to.
Noddy sings it really well. He does sing it with a lot of passion. And here's another example of the band being able to be a little bit more subtle when required, you know, so they weren't just thugs with instruments.
And you get this lovely feeling that actually Noddy's quite sensitive, and he's got this lovely side to him.
But Slade, being Slade, couldn't resist the temptation to introduce a bit of vulgarity into the proceedings. And in contrast to the reflective, romantic mood of the song, who can ever forget Noddy's famous belch in the middle of the song?
Of course, Slade, especially live, were not particularly soft, although they didn't overwhelm the song. They still allowed the feel of the song to come through, and the character of the song is there. But they'd had their own little hints and styles and subtleties and not so subtleties, like Noddy belching into the microphone at one point, just to basically say this might be a sensitive, sentimental song done by some people, but done by us. It's got that feel, but don't forget this is Slade and we want to have a laugh as well.
The infamous burp became a legendary rock moment, but Noddy may have regretted it, as crowds now expected a repeat every night in all its full glory.
I wonder how he feels about that now, whether he doesn't give a monkeys or whether he feels embarrassed by it.
Darling, be home soon.
Know Who You Are brings the tempo back up again with a song which has all the hallmarks of an early 70s rocker, yet there are still definite hints of the 60s and even a progressive tinge in the air.
Tied up your socks, trying your father's on. Run round the world taking all that you wanted out of it. Know where you are and where you've been and where you're going to. Make your babe sing the song.
My first thoughts were, bloody hell, it's Quo. The similarity between that and the live sound of Quo was absolutely unbelievable. So I'm straight on the phone to Francis Rossi and said, OK, mate, who got it from whom? And Francis admitted that they'd been great mates. To this day, they're great mates. And they toured very much, and Quo had supported Slade in the early days. And he did concede that they'd probably got a bit of that vibe off of one another.
It's kind of where they were becoming, because a lot of the early recordings were kind of covers, or they hadn't really settled on any sort of format for writing. And when Noddy and Jim Lee started writing together, they had suddenly hit on this wonderful, simple formula. And I think that song shows how where they were going with their particular style.
There's sort of two parts of Slade to this song. So the first part is just basically a blues starting in A, in the key of A, and then it just introduces a little bit of a D chord into it and a G chord into it. So essentially a blues sequence. And it's all played over a root note of A. And I'll play the sequence now. In two parts, I'll play the first sequence. So the first sequence goes like this. So as you can see, that could be played by perhaps someone even like Ry Cooder or some of the Texas blues players. But when you put Don Powell and Jim Lee underneath that, with this sort of very British shuffle, you get Slade. And then it goes to a second section, which is much more typical of Slade. And they're using the famous root and fifth, so the tonic, the root of the chord, and then the fifth note of the scale. And they go from A5 to C5 to D5 to C5 to A5 to G5 back to A5. But they play it like this. It goes like this. And then, so you get these juxtaposition things, which is typical Slade. That big chorus, and then back down to the verse.
Ain't sing a song to make out that you're playing is easy. Know where you are and where you've been and where you're going to.
Know Who You Are would never have been a commercial single. I don't think it was written with single in mind, like some of the other misnamed stuff. But it works well in a live context, which makes one think even more about the set list for this album.
This song is going to seep into you. It's not going to knock you over, but it's going to gradually seep into you. And I think it's a clever mentality with a live performance or a live album to have one or two songs like that which don't hit, they creep up on you. And Know Who You Are is not a bad song. It's a lesser song when you compare it to the true greats that these two wrote. But I think that's a measure of where they are in the pantheon of songwriters, not a criticism of the song.
Side 1 of the original album ends with Know Who You Are. Side 2 is total rock from beginning to end.
There was a period where you'd be a side 1 or a side 2, a man on a particular album. I always hated that because I always jumped about on tracks like that and trying to hit it in the right spot. I never could, and always wrecked records because of that.
Side 2's the better side. Not least, it's got to Get Down, Get With It, which is obviously the most noticeable hit track on there. But I mean, it's got Keep On Rocking on there, and it's just got more oomph.
The first half is quite. It sort of builds you up, and there's good bits here and good bits there, and But side 2, it's just like it's just. Oof.
That's it. Everybody's sweating a bit now. That's what we like to say. A bit of sweat. Lovely. This next one's a real raver. You want to really let yourselves go in this. Throw the chairs at one another and do whatever you feel like doing.
They would have been building towards this end with Get Down and Get With It and Born to Be Wild. So naturally some people would think that the original vinyl side 2 is the more exciting. I think it's just the way the show is paced.
Slade are now universally renowned for the songwriting partnership of Noddy Holder and Jimmy Lee. At the time the album was recorded, that partnership had not really clicked into place, and the band was still relying on a high proportion of covers. One of the 3 original songs was a great rock and roller, which opened side 2 of the album, and it was called Keep On Rocking.
Keep On Rocking was another Slade shot at the Chuck Berry motif, really, wasn't it? I mean, Slade were absolutely perfect at the 12-bar rockers.
It could be Good Golly Miss Molly, the whole phrasing and everything is approached in such a standard way.
It is derivative, but once again, they managed to make it their own.
Displays their influences, their roots, where they were coming from.
It is what it is. It was a live song, and Slade obviously had their set up for what they were, live. They knew what was going to work, what wasn't going to work, and that was their build-up song.
It's a weird thing, but I've played a few live shows in my time, and people they just love when you do something that's Chuck Berry based. They do. Probably because it's simple, and usually those songs have got a sing-along type of chorus.
Because it's on an album where it doesn't have to stand comparison to 'Cause I Love You or songs of that nature, Look What You've Done, it actually has a chance to stand in its own right. And I think Holder and Lee were proud of the songs they wrote, every single one of them. And they're probably very frustrated that some of them got overlooked. And they thought, Keep On Rocking, not our greatest moment, but you know what? We want people to hear it. So we'll put it into a context so people can appreciate it for what it is.
It displays that the energy, the party atmosphere is absolutely the most important thing there.
Well, all right, everybody, Let your head down. Let your head down.
The only Slade single which did make it to the album was a reworking of a Bobby Martian rock and roller called Get Down, Get With It.
Get down, get with it. Do the turn. Come on, baby. Come on, watch everybody work. Now come on, baby. Everybody do the dance. Get down and get with it. It's been a long, long time, you know that.
Once again, it's in the key of A, which is one of the keys they liked using a lot. And basically they play the root and the fifth, then they play the root and the sixth, then they play the root and the flat seventh, then they go back to the root and the sixth, and then the root and the fifth. So when you hear it like that, you think, yeah, but when you hear it like this, you'll recognize it. And that's Get Down and Get With It. So that's essentially a blues lick that you'll hear on hundreds and hundreds of records. And you know what they're doing, the only thing that they're doing slightly different is I think Dave Hill's probably playing that and Noddy's probably playing. Against that, and the two guitars create, one's dancing and one's playing the offbeat. That's all you need.
Got the rock and roll thing with you know, that the playability. Jim's boogie woogie bass runs underneath it, you know, the 12-bar accents by Dave, and you know, just the whole thing just moves, and you get Noddy Holder just letting, like, you know, fire out. I mean, it's no hold barred. It's incredible.
If you can understand that they've made a deliberate attempt to portray themselves as a kind of different band with Slade Alive, you know, you still kind of want that link between the two, and that's what Get Down and Get With It gives you.
I mean, it's about nothing really, but a lot of the great songs were about nothing. It's just it's songs to dance to, really. You could dance to it, stamp your feet, you know, and just make a noise and be big and loud, and which is what Slade were.
What's everybody get your boots up? Everybody, everywhere! I said stamp your feet! Come on and stamp your feet, yeah! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Oh, my. Everybody stamp your feet! Oh, my.
It's a call to arms, as it were, by Slade. It's basically the fact of getting up and enjoying yourself, or getting ready to enjoy yourself. And it's, you know, it's almost a warm-up exercise. In fact, Slade preempted all those exercise videos in the 1980s and 1990s with that, if you think about it.
It's almost like Noddy Holder comes down, clears the floor and goes, right, dance. You know, it's like a cowboy shooting at your feet. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's just in your face, and it's like, come on, clap your hands, stamp your feet, you know, it's like, yeah, come on.
I want to see everybody get up on their knees. I want you to clap your hands and stamp your feet. And keep on rocking. Keep on rocking! 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 Oh! Oh! Let me hear it! Oh!
As Slade became more and more popular, so Noddy came more into his own as a sort of an MC, if you like, whose job it was to simply entertain as well as sing. So during Get Down and Get With It, he would shout out things like wave your hands in the air, stomp your feet, get down and get with it. As they became more and more popular and rather more licentious on stage, Noddy would stop the song and shout things like, hands up all the girls with black knickers, and all the girls would go shrieking, hands up all the girl with white knickers, hands up all the girls with no knickers. And of course, now this is really corny stuff, but boy, did it go down well with those audiences.
It just shows what a great MC, what a great front man, and what a great crowd worker Noddy Holder was and probably still is.
Such a uniting track for their audience, such a massive thing, and as a live track for Slade, it's like a pinnacle track for them. And I think, you know, it was then, and I think it is now.
As we've seen, of the 7 tracks on the Slade Alive album, 4 are cover versions of other people's songs. But Slade had a great knack of making the material their own. They certainly achieved this with a well-chosen future classic called Born to be Wild.
It was a raucous, riotous, rowdy version. It wasn't just a straightforward Steppenwolf style approach. They really went for it, and it became a bit of a live staple. Not only that, live, it was also something of a mess in the nicest possible sense. Everything just meshed together and became a complete, glorious, planned noise.
Slade had this unique orchestration when you got 2 guitars, because Noddy basically played rhythm. But if you watch Dave and him play, Noddy always played a bar chord up the neck, and Dave would play the same chord down the neck, and Jim Lee would play the bass notes in another part. So there's a lovely sound. It actually was very appealing.
It just gives another dimension to the track for me. It just makes it incredibly exciting, very Slade. You know, Noddy Holder's voice has like a metal edge to it.
You're not gonna make it happen. The world is a loving place. Oh, fire the guns and watch them explode into space. Like a true nature child, we were born to be wild. We can fly so high, I'm never gonna die. Born to be wild.
It's a stomping, oh, that's what they were a stomping band, that's what they called themselves. So it's a stomping version of Born to be Wild.
I think the problem I have with Born to be Wild is that it's so intrinsically linked with Steppenwolf that you're kind of like, well, what's the point of covering it? It'd be like covering Kick Out the Jams by the MC5, you know, or something, or Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols. You know, there's kind of like, there's certain areas where you just don't go. Not because they're sacred to the band that recorded them, but just because they're so connected with that band.
You can hear they enjoy playing it. They probably wish they'd written it, as I do. And yeah, and a great way of closing the record. And the crowd loved it as well. And not out of place, weirdly enough.
It's a great version of it, and it's perfectly in place on this album. It doesn't sound out of place. In fact, none of the songs on there, in the context of all 7 tracks, do you ever think, hang on, that's out of place. And it's a perfectly apt and satisfying way to end a great live album. I don't believe that Slade Alive has gone down as a classic album, and it's a great tragedy because it should have done. This is probably something to do with the way they looked rather than the music they performed. It's happened to a lot of 70s artists who dressed in a manner that today we might think, God, they look like a bunch of dorks, don't they? Right? Happened to ABBA for a long time as well. ABBA weren't taken seriously because of the way they looked. And I think the same thinking has afflicted Slade, alas.
I personally wouldn't say it's a classic, but it's certainly a really good album that's got lost in time and is well worth digging out and remembering again.
And it has been a bit of a forgotten thing, because, you know, things are forgotten, and Slade moved on, you know, became a huge singles band and sold tons and tons of records, and even rivaled the Beatles for sales. But I think Slade Alive set them up for what they became.
From the glam period, nothing really, you know, nothing has a boot the size of this boot, you know. I mean, these guys might as well have invented Doc Martens along with it, you know. I mean, you know, it's Slade at their loudest. It's Slade at their basic, loudest, everything. You know, it's exciting from beginning to end.
The laughter, belching, audience swearing at them. It's got everything in it, you know, and they've just left it in, and it's great. That's what you got, a piece of their live set. Whether you got the best bits or not is another argument. There might have been some good songs there and some good songs there, we don't know. But you got that 7 songs on your record, and you took it home, and that was your slice of Slade live.
It captures the moment in time. It captures that era perfectly as well. I would imagine there's people up on stage dancing at the end and all that, you know. And you just don't get that nowadays. Not unless they've been taken by the security guards early and said, would you like to go up on stage, you know.
You listen to the album now and it's still got a lot of energy about it. It's still got a lot of raucous attitude. So in that respect, it is a classic album. But if you're going to go on the timeless attitude and aspect of it, it doesn't really match up to the truly great live albums that we've experienced over the years. However, let's not underestimate what it meant to Slade, and also what it meant to bands in America like Kiss, who heard this and thought, this band are great, we want to be just like them.
I would like to bet that if a young band, a young energetic band came along and studied old footage of Slade and possibly Quo and moulded a whole new stage show around that kind of let's rock and let's enjoy it vibe, that they could probably clean up all over again.
Shaking lightning, heavy metal thunder, with the wind.
From here, there was no stopping Slade. They went on to achieve immense success. Eventually, Noddy and Jim decided enough was enough. But in the new millennium, Dave Hill and Don Powell are still rocking out and raising the banner for Slade. And I, for one, say more power.